Social media or other platforms hosting group communications is a reality. And you're personally either coaching or hiring coaching for these groups. So you may have, for instance, I have what I call a community coach. So she's in each of our Facebook groups. And right now we're expanding so that other flipping 50 menopause fitness specialists who've gone through the certification, they have gone through the course, passed, carry the certificate, and have gone through a coaching course and passed with flying colors and understand the expectation of coaching in those groups and the ability to actually do more beyond that accountability coaching for us. They're also in those groups. So there's a lot that can be done, and yet that opens a whole can of worms. Are you doing it? Are you doing all the things? Are you wanting a coach to do a specific thing and you handle the other things? This episode is going to break that all down. So, very elusive and broad in terms of opening it up, but for a good reason. That's kind of how the Wild West of many social media groups is running. Like, it doesn't serve any actual purpose. You need to have a purpose. You need to know for your group members what the purpose is and be relaying that so you have clear expectations. So we'll talk about how you can do a better job of that and then be more satisfied yourself with how that group actually serves your people and or serves whatever next step you may want them to take, and they're happier and maybe chatting about it a little bit more themselves. I'm Deborah Atkinson. You're listening to She Means Fitness Business, a division of Voice for Fitness. And at Voice for Fitness, we know that you want to be an inspirational example to midlife women. In order to do that, you need a profitable health and fitness coaching business. And the problem is a lack of clients. For a lot of trainers and health coaches, it's a lack of money as well because they're charging too little, which makes you feel uncertain about whether you can succeed. We believe here that you deserve consistent, dependable revenue from clients that you love. And I understand how it feels where you are right now. I've been there too, which is why I now train fitness pros internationally. Here's how I do it. I meet with you in a call. You and I create a plan of action based on where you are and what your definition of success is. And number 3, we celebrate growth all along the way. The actions you're taking as well as the revenue that you may be generating or the success and legacy that you're leaving, if it's otherwise that you just define success. So book a call. And meanwhile, I want you to get the Health and Fitness Professionals Business Scorecard so you can stop feeling like your dream is slipping away while other less qualified and less heart-centered coaches make sales and get clients. And instead, you can easily create more revenue by at least $5,000 a month in the next 90 days. Okay, let's dive into this whole concept. It's because social media or other platforms hosting group communications, it's a reality. And you're probably personally either inside them coaching or you hire coaches to do that. Creating expectations for yourself and for them is very necessary for the coaches, for the clients, for yourself, based on outcomes your coaches provide if you are not doing the coaching yourself. There's 3 types of services to consider that I at least like to break it down as. Number 1, there's logistics and soft skill responses to client questions like, where do I find that handout? Or I logged in, but I didn't have access, or the video says can't be seen. I'm so sorry I put that voice on, but unfortunately, we get those a lot, and there is some user error, as there you might imagine, right? Number 2 is then there are the hard skills, the expert answers that should come from a qualified expert. And these are the kinds of things that could be A or could be B. They could be so advice driven. Like it is, they're giving a scenario. What should I do? I'm thinking about this A or this B. Here's how I'm feeling right now. What would you recommend? And someone is actually giving them that hard skill, like the suggestion for what they may want to do. Then You may also distinctly offer customer support within the group, related more to technical support or information about their purchase, their product, or what's included in that. So this isn't, where do I find that in the membership? Or where do I find that here in this fitness group? Where should I be? Is this where I should be asking a question? So that's one. Then there's the hard skills of someone asking advice literally about a step in an action that they may take. And then there's the distinctly customer service support. And you may choose to separate that. What happens inside? We, for technical support, send everyone over to our support at flipping50.com. They're not in the Facebook group for a reason. That is a place where we do coaching that may be coaching them and coaching their responses, not just coaching on between this and this would be a better choice of breakfast based on your goals and what's happening for you. There's those kinds of answers, but there's also the other kind that ensure that we're not just cheerleaders saying, good job, great job, good choices, because that really disempowers your customers. If you want them to be successful going forward, not codependent on you, and somewhere along the lines, you may have worked for a business that taught you, make sure that they're codependent on you. Don't put them on machines because they can do machines themselves. Make sure that you're using exercises that they can't use without you, or taking them to a room they can't access without you. You may have been trained in that way, but seriously, if you are giving the customer the best training possible, their skills and their desire is going to grow. It's not going to shrink. They're probably going to want more of you, trust you more because you're doing it. But you want to think specifically about these levels of coaching and what it is you offer. We do twofold. Number one, yes, we're there to celebrate with them, but we also turn it back around. So one of the things that really drives me crazy is just jumping on and saying, good job. They don't need that from me. They've probably got 1,000 other members in that group who are saying that is great or that's impressive, and giving them that kind of a high five. From a coach, we're coaching them to have more internal motivation, not the external, because the external is needing that praise, feeling like I got to get the gold star from the teacher. I didn't count. That just keeps people codependent. It's not a healthy relationship. What you want them to do is think about, how did you make that success happen? What was different this time for you? What did you put in place that made it possible for you to do that? Asking them those kinds of questions, that is really coaching. And if that really appeals to you and you realize you're not doing that, you're not alone. It's so very easy to go into advising, and you're truly happy for your customer. So it's very easy to say, oh, this makes me so happy. Great job. And nothing wrong with saying this makes me so happy, but imagine the rest when you can actually come back to them and have them think through, well, geez, that's a great question. It was this that made it so much easier this time for me. So, without having to decide in advance what happens within your groups, there's an opportunity for a self-interpretation of expectations and responsibilities and understanding of scope of practice. So if you don't decide this, somebody is. Every one of your customers is deciding it according to what she wants. Every one of the coaches who might work for you is determining it based on what she wants. Or let's say you're a coach and you're in groups for someone else. Your boss has one set of expectations, but maybe you're not sure of what that is. I would ask so that you're all on the same page. And then success really looks like the same thing to all of you. So what I'm going to follow with here are some basic tips for boosting your group satisfaction and success. By that, all the members of the group, anybody who's coaching besides you, and your satisfaction with the group. Last but not least, you don't want to be thinking, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to jump in. I got to go do a live in my group. You want to actually be like, I love coming in here. They've got such great questions. They're getting successes, or we're preventing errors, and they're saying this is so valuable for me. You want to be in that kind of a group. You can create it. It's up to you. So health coaching to groups and their social posts. So every time a member posts within a group, number one, make them feel seen and heard. All of those should be liked by you, small comment by you or one of your coaches. Acknowledge how somebody feels, yet do it with neutrality. So they could be dead wrong, but you still have to acknowledge how they feel. So feelings are never wrong. They could feel, I'm so frustrated. Your response should not be, even if they go on to say, I have more energy, I'm lifting more weight, I know I'm getting stronger, but I haven't lost any weight. You can't simply say, stop it, right? Because you're losing all your power to the scale, which is what I would want to say. But you have to make sure, look, I understand that you're frustrated. Just want you to reflect on you were celebrating and celebrating and celebrating. And then you got to that one last thing. Had you not looked at the scale, how would you have felt? Good, right? Good, better, best. But you can coach in that way, but you have to acknowledge how people feel. Do it with neutrality. You don't have to make them right just because you say, I understand how you feel, doesn't make them you're right. That's not what you said. Their opinion matters, and it doesn't mean you make them right. That's an important distinction. Again, repeat what they said, literally word for word. Don't repeat what they said if they said it like this and you repeat it like that. Okay, listen to this one. So somebody says, a litany of things that went wrong in their life, and that maybe within this last 3 months, they've had COVID, and they've had, a mother fall down and break a hip, and they had a caregiver, and they have a handicapped child, and they were on such a great run with their exercise, and they fell off the bandwagon of their emotional eating. They fall into pieces, and, now they've gained all their weight back. And they said life has been stressful. So if you repeat the words, that is stressful, you are making them right. You're just jumping in there, and we are making it worse. It's like, take the dagger, let's stir it a little and just tell them, yes, that is terrible. So you can say, oh, I understand how that must be stressful for you. I can hear how stressful that is for you. I can tell from the tone of your post that's stressful, and empathize with them. But don't make them right. Don't make it worse. Don't jump in and throw fuel on the fire. We have to be really careful in that situation. So yes, it's all true, and that would be terrible. But at that moment, is that going to help? Or is there something else that you could say and a response that you could have to help them feel heard, supported, without jumping in there and dwelling on what's bad in their lives? That's the difference that you really want to stop and say, okay, my response here, is this helping them? Is it helping anybody else in our group here who would see it? Is there a different way that I could respond? So the second thing is you want to clarify your understanding and summarize. Now, in this past example, that was probably pretty easy. Life is crap right now. And I feel like, I was on a roll. Now I'm not on a roll. That's not a great example. I mean, we don't need a whole lot of clarification there, but we might need to say, so if I understand correctly, where you are right now is kind of wondering where to pick up the pieces, though that would be an example of getting some clarification. So somebody may just come in and post and dump and want empathy, but you don't know they want empathy. Ask them, can I understand where you're coming from, and let me know how I can help best? Are you looking for a place to start? Much better place than just saying or assuming oh, they just must want an ear. They just want to dump and vent. You don't know that. And so they don't also know that, right? So you could clarify, like, can I help you? Or would you like, are you in a place where you'd like just a first step for right now, just to help you feel a little bit better and put you back in control in a small place in your world right now? Good question. So you summarize what you heard in your words and you ask for any clarification that you don't have yet. You restate, I'm sorry, with a reframe. So you restate what they've said. And as I mentioned before, you might say in that case, this went wrong, this went wrong, this went wrong. And you're right now feeling a little frustrated, but potentially I also hear you might be ready for, where do I pick up the pieces and what would that first step be? Am I hearing you right? So in that case, it's a little bit leading, but you're leading them in a positive direction, right? So there's a point where that might make sense. There are other things that you could ask in other situations. This is not one, but why do you think that? What made you believe that? What are you thinking that makes you feel that way? Versus, I'm sorry you feel that way. You shouldn't, like everything goes wrong and yet they haven't lost weight yet. And they're saying, I'm so disappointed. Answering with, I'm sorry you feel that way. You shouldn't be disappointed because you got all those other things going for you. That's probably not as helpful as, why do you think you're dwelling so much on what the scale says when you were celebrating in the other areas of energy and strength and seeing more definition? Ask that question. Okay, next up. So just a review here, though, quickly. So you got to make them feel heard and seen, no matter if they're right or wrong, just heard and seen. Number 2, clarify your understanding, summarize it. And number 3 is you want to mirror or reflect, but you want to do that instead of evaluating. And this is really, really important. So repeat exactly what they said, yes, in a neutral way. You don't have to get in there and roll around in the mud with them. Women like to kind of marinate inside and wallow right in the sorrow and the loss and the frustration and rehash it. You don't have to get in there with them, and a good coach won't. You're just listening to where they're at. Maybe you're saying, look, let's take 60 seconds. Let's literally dump how lousy this is, how terrible, how awful, how unfair, how unjust, and get it out of your system. And then we still have to decide, are we going to stay there in that feeling and emotion, or do we want to start taking single step out to the other direction? So you're still acknowledging it, but you're giving them the power to decide, do I want to do this? And do I want to go somewhere else? So, you could say to somebody, that makes me so happy for you. Or you say, you should be happy, right? And I don't love either one of those answers. I don't love the word should in a sentence to anybody. I don't love a word should to ourselves. Like, I should have done that better. I know better. Man, I don't like that at all. So that said, think about, that makes me so happy for you. I am so happy for you. That is okay, actually. But what else could you go on and say? And you could ask, what does it feel like for you? Right? So you're not asking that in a condescending way, like you were talking to a child. You're just literally curious. And so tone of voice matters if you're doing it voice to voice or you're on a live going into a group. If you're just posting, you can use ... You can use dashes to put in those pauses. And sometimes even that will make a difference. If they're used to hearing your voice, people, when they read something you wrote, will hear your voice. You do it. I do it too, right? So think about how much that could matter. So let me give you those again. So coaching in groups, you make them feel heard and seen. That helps the whole group collectively know you've got their back. Number two, clarify the understanding and summarize it. And sometimes realize that you're clarifying something you do understand, but you're assuming you do unless you get confirmation from them. But you're also clarifying your response for anybody else in the group. So you're clarifying any response you will get by confirming the meaning of what the participant in the group wrote. And you need to do that because other people in the group, if you've got 1,000 people in there, somebody's going to interpret it differently than you did. And that's an important distinction to make. Then the third thing is mirror it, reflect what they've said versus evaluate it. So you would never jump on the bandwagon and say, wow, that does sound stressful. No, right? You would say, I can hear why. I can hear that you think that's so stressful. Those pieces were so stressful for you. I can hear that. You could write something like that, but you don't agree. That is so stressful. Or I can understand how you must feel. You could say that, but you don't want to agree. Yes, that was terrible and awful. And we just don't want to get in there and ruminate with them. Reflection is sharing an observation of something someone may not realize about themselves. So you create an awareness potentially also about a limiting belief. People don't often realize when they have limiting beliefs because it's something they believe and then it's the truth to them. Our perception is our truth. And that's just it. We live in this reality of a bubble, all of us. And even if we live with people in our house, live alone, we interact with people all the time. Everything we do is based on our own perception of what this action did to us or will do to some other. So you can ask questions about limiting beliefs saying, what makes you believe that's true? How is that belief working for you? And do you want to explore other options for you? So rather than say, here's what you believe and here's the truth, right? That, probably doesn't go over really well because it's not their idea. They don't realize. But you want to ask them most of all, how is that working out for you? And there will potentially be a very pregnant pause if you're doing a one-on-one. Can you tell? I've done this before. And you have to let that awkward silence sit there because the first person who speaks loses if there's silence like that in a sales call, right? And we're not talking about sales here, but the first person in this case who speaks is the one who's going to get the most benefit, and you want it to be them. It has to be that they break this silence, answering one way or another. They may not understand what's behind the question or what it is that you mean. They may ask for clarification depending on where they are in personal development, and that's okay. But now you've got a conversation. You want to provide the opportunity for internal reflection versus external reliance. Hinted at this one a little bit ago. So instead of that good job, just posting, yay, evaluation and its external judgment when you do that. It makes it good, bad. Because if there's a good job, it means if someone hadn't done that, they did a bad job. Right? So it's just hinted at. So how did you set yourself up for success this week that made that happen for you? So you just get curious, and you dive into them answering their own questions and potentially increasing the likelihood they're going to increase that power for themselves next time so they can take it all the way home. Because it could be accidental. The 4 stages of somebody acquiring really a skill or also I would say a health habit is you start at this place where you have unconscious incompetence. You don't even know you're doing it wrong, right? And that's sometimes people will call that bliss, but ignorant bliss. But then you reach this point where you have this conscious incompetence. Like you are aware you're not doing it right. And that's kind of the first place where somebody starts to climb up and out of a hole. Like they're realizing, I didn't even know I was doing that. And now I do. So the goal is then to catch themselves doing it so they can be more successful doing the right thing. So then they get this unconscious competence. They do start getting it right, but they're not quite sure how they did it. And I'll tell you a story. So this is not a health habit, but I have had organic success on YouTube from the beginning. And I did it just by posting consistently regular content in my niche, stuck to it, didn't really have a clue what I was doing, took an early course. So I did take a course and knew enough to try to learn more about how to do it better, but never put really money to it. When I did, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So it was really pretty stupid that I did. But it's all been organic. And very recently, I went through a more serious audit and started following directions that she gave me from it, like the pay by number. She said, do this, do this, do this. This should be the first thing you do next. And so as I did that, I'm like, oh my gosh, this one has gone mini viral, but I followed her direction, but I don't know why. Like the very next video that I posted didn't do as well. And now I'm like, what? So clearly I am still in that unconscious competence. Like it happened once, it's not going to happen consistently because I don't actually know what I did right. People get that all the time with their health habits. Like they will nail it one night, got a great night's sleep, and then it's like I didn't, so I don't know what the difference was. And watch for those things, but those steps along the way, you can provide them with this. How did you set yourself up for success this week that made that happen? Somebody could ask me that about the video, and I would maybe walk through it, and maybe I'd stumble across, oh, you know what? It was this. And that's what you're hoping, that they come back to things that I'm definitely going to repeat that, right? So help them put that together. And also you want to check in with empathy versus sympathy. We don't have sympathy for our clients. That's not where you want to go. I understand how you feel based on what you're saying versus I know how you feel. I feel for you. You have every right to feel that way. The latter is like sympathy. And you're getting right in there and you're ruminating with them, but you're also removing their power and you're creating an ability just to stay stuck, enjoy it, wallow around. So unless you're going to put a time limit on that, like you have every right to feel what you're feeling. I agree with that, don't you? But, I know how you feel. I feel for you. I'm so sorry for you. That's sympathy, and that's not helpful. So help them. I understand how you must feel based on what you're saying. And give them a short time to wallow and then say, are you ready to move on? Do you want to take a step and go in a different direction? And, somebody may not be. They may like, no, I need to be mad. I need to lay on the couch for a couple more days and then I'll be ready. And that's fair game, but put some kind of a time limit on it. In a coaching situation where you need more information as the coach in order to help them, ask questions that get you to the solution versus asking about a problem. Now, that's different. Think about any marketing or sales advice I've given you. If you're listening to other podcasts, you know that we do talk about the problem. We talk about the problem in very descriptive ways that the customer talks about it herself. Because number one, we're a coach who knows them so well that we know that. And they are going to, from that, deduce that if we know the problem so well, we also know the solution. But when you're coaching, Now you're going to ask questions that get you to a solution. You're not going to dive into the problem. That's a little bit more like psychiatry, like lie on my couch and let's talk about your problem and when it first started and what happened in your childhood. We're not going there with them, right? So one is helpful and the other one stays stuck, and sympathy comes with a negative energy that is contagious. In your group, you're allowing people to whine, and you have to set this up. We don't tolerate that. So if that's the kind of mood and atmosphere that you have, we have to shift it. And it starts with you. If you're the boss, it starts with you. And my business starts with me, goes right down to our community coach. We can't let them do that. Then it goes right to our members. And those long-term legacy members are really very influential. So hold them near to your heart. Take good care of them because they are supporting the culture in your groups. So, on the other hand, remember this, if you are in a marketing situation, we do ask about the problem. We talk about the problem and you describe the problem. Here, though, you're a coach, so you want to deliver and you deliver solutions. And that's what you want to get them to be starting to think about. Okay. Let me know if that was helpful. We covered a lot of ground, talked about a lot of coaching questions. And if you are looking for support with coaching and how to become just a better coach in general, what I would suggest is that you watch for a new CEU program that's coming up. We're actually recording it this week in a new masterclass for continuing education credits intended to be for our flipping 50 menopause fitness specialists, made for them because they've asked for support in doing this better, being a better coach. We created this, and I am exploring the essential coaching skills for working with midlife women. So if you're a health fitness professional, you're a little bit confused by the very loose use of the term coach today, this will help you realize when you're actually coaching and when you're not, when you might be wearing one of two other hats. And you may find that you have more potential revenue streams that bring accelerated results for your clients and for your business. So you just need to be on our email subscriber list to get the first chance to take this course when it comes out. If you're already a Flipping 50 Menopause Fitness Specialist and inside, you're going to get a link to the CEU as we launch it and the ability to actually do a review for us as we apply for CEUs, and you will get the CEUs as soon as they're granted. So easy way to get on our email list, by the way, if you want this, is apply for the business scorecard, and I'll leave that in the show notes, which will be at fitnessmarketingmastery.com/health coaching to groups. What are you waiting for? The world needs us right now more than ever.